Hey there, everybody. So this video is going to show you how to get started on the Developing Ideas document, which is the second stage in the design cycle here after inquiry and analysis. So I'm going to be using, just to review for a second, the same sort of direction that I've been going in with all the demo videos here. I'm going to create a toy for a 5 to 6 year old. Specifically, I'm looking at a toy that involves pulling things apart, like how a chip bag is opened or how a banana is opened. Okay, so that pulling motion is what I'm going for. And so I'm looking back at my design brief here, which is super helpful. If somehow you didn't end up getting your inquiry and analysis done or something, that's okay. You can still jump right back in right now. You can just follow my lead here in this video, and you'll be okay in that sense. So flipping over here to my version, my demo copy of the Developing Ideas document, you'll all have your own copy. We've got this rubric here that we can look back at if we need, but let me get down here and kind of jump right into this first part. So part one here, I've got a restatement of the problem here for you. Part one of Developing Ideas involves developing design specifications which clearly state the success criteria for the design of a solution. Well, what the heck does this mean? All right. So a design specification, all right, I've got a definition right here. Design specification is a detailed description of the conditions, requirements, and restrictions with which a design must comply. It is a precise and accurate list of facts such as conditions, dimensions, materials, processes, methods that are important for the designer and for the user. So you might look at that and be like, oh my gosh, what does Osgood want me to do? Well, I promise you it's not as bad as you think, okay? So I've broken it down for you like I tend to do with these little pieces of this whole project. What you can do is list your design specifications simply in the left column, which is basically like a couple words that'll help you remember what the specific thing you're trying to meet is. And then you can explain it on the right. And this is where you're basically going to explain how you'll know if your design successfully meets the design spec that's on the left. So this is what the clearly state the success criteria means. It means like, how do we know that this will be successful? What do we need to do to make sure that it meets the design specs? So I'm going to just keep throwing this word around, but I think what's going to help you is seeing me do some examples here. And so some of the best design specs are actually kind of like listed right here up in the problem. A specification is something specific. Like I said, a detailed description, conditions, requirements, restrictions, precise list of conditions, dimensions, materials. So this is like, what are the specifics, the design specifications of the design? What are the specific things you want to address with your design? Well, so looking up here at the problem, I know that I want my design to be fun. So why don't we put that in here? Fun. Okay. I know that I want the design to help improve hand-eye coordination. Let's be even more specific. Look, for a specific audience or a child. So I know that it needs to improve hand-eye coordination. And going back to my design brief, I know that my flavor of hand-eye coordination that I'm addressing is how to open a chip bag. I want them to get better at opening a chip bag or a banana peel. All right, so I'm going to say that right here. I'm going to be specific. Must improve ability to open a chip bag or banana peel. Right? So that's a specification. I'm being specific and I'm saying, this is what I want my toy to do. What are some other things here? So we did say, actually, we didn't talk about this a lot, but I push for toys to be self-contained, which means that they're kind of all in themselves, like maybe they're all stuck together. But sometimes some of you might go a route where you're going to have different pieces. So maybe your toy isn't going to be self-contained. All your toys should be robust. So I'm going to put that down here. Robust really just means durable. Whoops, not durable. Durable. Okay. So that means it's hard to break. And we can talk about that more over here when we start explaining the design briefs. And then safe. Okay, safe for my chosen audience. Well, my audience, what did I say? It's a 5 to 6 year old. So safe for a 5 to 6 year old. Okay. So I have kind of hit now already on a lot of the the specifications. You can do like 4 or 5 of these is good. The more specific things you set out for yourself, the better. Looking back over here, let's see, I looked at toys that have monkeys, involve picking things up and putting them down, squigs with suction cups, a pulling motion. So, there's other things that I can include here, but for the sake of this demo video with you guys, I'm just going to leave it at this. But you guys can add as many design specifications as you want. Make sure you get a couple of them, though. We don't just want like 1 or 2. Like that's not a bunch of design specifications. All right, let's get into the explanation now. So when you try to explain one of these, you have to ask yourself, how will I know that this thing is successful? Okay. And sometimes a good way to think about this is to think of things that are not meeting the design specification. So for a 5 to 6 year old, and I might want to make this more specific, fun for a 5 to 6 year old. Okay. So for starters, I like to think, what are things that are not fun for a 5 to 6 year old? I'm going to put some in parentheses. Things that are not fun for 5 to 6 year old. We'll just do yo for year old. Things that they probably wouldn't find fun, math. I think of that. I mean, some 5 to 6 year olds might. They're going to have trouble with writing probably. So sometimes it can help to think first, what are the things that don't fit? And that'll help us get to the things that do fit. So math, writing, what are other things 5 to 6 year olds don't like to do? Complex tasks, right? Because they get like confused. They have a short attention span. So ways to make something fun for a 5 to 6 year old probably mean that, let's see, for something to be fun for a 5 to 6 year old, it should be simple. So these are things that would make it successful. Okay, it should be simple. It should be easy to understand. It should not be frustrating for them. And it probably also should be like, oh, I was going to say colorful, but let's add that down here. Visually appealing. I just thought of another design spec, and you can add them as they go. So right there, that's a pretty good explanation of this design spec, right? I know that something that's going to be fun should be simple, easy to understand, and it shouldn't be frustrating, all right? So it's about giving more details over here. If at this point you're starting to understand this, we're going on 7 minutes for this video. Go on, get started on this on your own. But if you want to keep seeing me do examples, I'll do some more of these. All right. So stay tuned here if you want to hear more of these. So let's go to my next design spec. It must improve the ability to open a chip bag or a banana peel. This actually might be one of the more challenging design specs to explain, because what the heck does that mean? Okay. So again, if I do the approach of thinking of non-examples or things that don't meet this design spec, what are things that don't help someone open a chip bag? They don't exercise that skill of pulling? Well, like I would say things like driving a car, like turning a steering wheel. That's not really doing any pulling exercises. It's not really doing anything like that. So I'm going to stay away from that. But if I do think like the motion of doing a zipper, you have to pinch with one finger, one hand, and pull with the other. So maybe so successful toys that might improve these skills are ones that have a motion where one hand has to grip something and hold it steady, comma, while the other hand has to grip something else and slide or pull it. Similar to opening a banana, right? You have to kind of break it at the top and pull it down. Opening a chip bag, you're holding two sides and pulling them apart. And that's where I could think about the toys I did in the last example. I had these suction cup toys that you could pull them off. So this right here now, it's a nice description of what it would mean for a toy to successfully exercise that skill. Successful toys that might improve these skills are ones that have motion where one hand has to grip something, hold it steady, while the other hand has to grip something else and slide or pull it. So what I'm doing is I'm making more specific my thinking about what the heck this toy is going to be. All right, so I'm going to keep going here. I'll finish out this example. I'll try to do the last three of these here. So robust or durable, what does that mean? Well, for my toy to be robust, it must be hard to break if a 5 to 6 year old is going to be using it. So again, think of things that aren't robust, that aren't durable. What are things that are often broken? In my mind, things that have thin plastic parts, okay, break all the time, right? Those are things that you're going to find broken. Things that are cheap from the dollar store, they're flimsy, they could get bent. So what's the opposite of that now? Okay, the parts of the toy should be thick enough that they are not going to be easily snapped off or bent by a small child. And we know that like adults can be a little more gentle with things, but like kids don't even know their own strength all the time. So we're definitely going to want to make sure, like, if there's something sliding, it better not rip off there. Whatever part ends up sliding on my toy better be hard to break or pull off. Okay, so you don't have to be crazy specific exactly because you don't know what you're making yet, but you're just thinking through all the options and starting to think ahead, think towards the future. Safe for a 5 to 6 year old. What does that mean? Do 5 to 6 year olds choke on things? You might do a little Googling and you might find out what age do kids stop running the risk of choking on things, especially if you're doing a younger kid. Maybe like how big does something have to be in order for a kid to not choke on it? I often hear the reference used that bigger than a hot dog makes it difficult to choke. So look that up. It's okay to look that stuff up. Visually appealing, same kind of deal. Like, what do you think is pretty? What do you think is ugly? All right. Think of those two extremes, and then that will help you work towards figuring out the more specific thinking that you need. And you can spend you can go as long on these as you want, and you can keep coming back and adding stuff to them as you go on and you start to do the next stages after this of actually sketching out your ideas. So I hope this helps. I hope these examples help. Feel free to ask me for more help, ask your peers, and I can go through examples either just with you individually or with the class. Just let me know, folks. So best of luck on this, and we'll see you later.